thank you so much to Michelle, my friend of well over a decade, but don't tell anybody. We use good moisturizer. Stay out of the sun. We actually, Jeff, you are very fair too. I'm Italian, but I stay out of the sun. We've known each other for over a decade and always wanted to collaborate together. Lots of fellow passions. Our families get along amazingly. So thank you so much to Michelle for having me. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. I will move around a lot, but I will move with direction to not make people nauseous. As I'm looking at the screen right now, you probably can tell I'm usually somebody that's behind the camera, not on camera. This is all new for me because I see there's far more flowers than there are Robbie, but I will be coming more forward to show you arrangements. It's just the way I work. I'm a visual kind of human, so I prioritize the flowers and minimize myself. But like Michelle said, my name is Robbie Amadeo, and I live right near y'all off of Valley Road, off of Grove actually, just past Applegate Farms. And I kind of live near Plaques and Richfield Farms. I love everything alive, nature. I'm a very green kind of fella. But the reason we're doing this today, like Michelle said, I do lectures for all around New Jersey for different communities. And by trade, I work on Broadway and television and film. Again, don't tell anybody, but over 20 years. I can't believe it's been that long. Just before the pandemic, so this time last year, I was on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I was at Food Network, styling the chefs at their studios. And what else did I do? I finished up West Side Story, Steven Spielberg. It remade West Side Story. We shot it right here in Paterson. Well, I'm not in Paterson, but I'm very close to Paterson. So that was an awesome commute. And what else was I doing? And Nickelodeon. I've been doing Nickelodeon for many years. Okay, what do I do? Well, it looks like I do flowers. Well, in addition to flowers, I am in the theatrical makeup and hair union. And I'm in the theatrical wardrobe costume union. And I am an interior decorator. I basically get any certification I can find. This is a passion for me. And now with being off from Broadway and television, I am afforded the opportunity to do flowers more, huge passion of mine, do historical lectures. I do historical costume, wigs and makeup and fashion lectures about my experiences doing film, TV, Broadway. We talk about Hollywood. We go from Marie Antoinette to current day. I bring visual aids. We discuss things through vintage clothing I own, jewelry, artifacts, nostalgia. Anything that's old is new again in my book. The only thing new I like are flowers, but I'm big on nostalgia and history. So there's always going to be a historical spin to any of my lectures. All right, let's get into it. Just real quick, as a introduction, as I said, I work on Broadway and television. When referring to flowers, pardon me, I do so many things, I don't know what day it is. So basically, a flower arrangement is almost like doing a wig. This is one of my 18th century wigs. It's about, well, first of all, no matter what you're creating, you want it to be beautiful, especially when it's flowers. I take that same cue when I'm designing something for Broadway or television. Even if the character I'm creating for is a villain or somebody that's ugly or whatever, I still try to make it beautiful. But the art of creating a costume or creating a wig, it's a silhouette, right? So it's not too far off from what we do when we're creating a floral arrangement. You have your materials, you have your raw materials, but then how am I going to approach what I'm doing? So this first lecture we're going to do, because everybody has different skill levels and different experience with flowers, we're going to keep it super basic, but super interesting and make it an introduction to the different elements that are involved with flowers. So the 7 main principles of floral design are proportion, scale, harmony, rhythm, balance, unity, and emphasis, or focal point. Okay, what the heck does that mean? Well, of course, proportion is the size relation of the elements, each flower, the vase. So basically, your proportion is going to be in consideration of your vessel, which is whatever we're going to use to put the flowers in, and then how big those flowers are going to extend or not extend out of the vessel. So that overall dimension. The scale, so that's all in relation to one another. What proportion are you going for? And then the overall scale is that finished product. You know, this is just a flower of, you know, a vase with flowers, but even that alone can be an arrangement. So that's the overall completed look once you're done. Harmony. Okay, are we making harmony, almost like music? Are we making a pleasing combination? You can counterpoint items, things that, and colors you might not think to go together, or style, but if there's harmony, if it's fluid, if we look at it and we're like, oh, this is pleasing to our eye. And then rhythm. As you're looking at something, kind of like my little composition here, me surrounded by flowers, is there a rhythm to what we're looking at right now? Is my eye going everywhere, or is it just being drawn to one thing? It's okay if it's drawn to one thing, because then that's your focal point. You just want to make sure everything around it supports it. So that's your rhythm. Balance, I have to turn over my card. Uh-oh, that probably means it's a lengthy one. So for balance, it's literally, does it, so it doesn't topple over. This has water in it. So, you know, for example, this little bin of tulips, is she gonna topple over? So there's literally that in reference to balance, because you might say, well, Robbie, that's so silly, but have you ever tipped something over? Have you ever knocked your water glass over or your coffee cup over? I actually dropped water, knocked water on my partner's laptop. That wasn't a good day, but the laptop survived. And then you're talking about the visual balance. When we're talking about visual balance, to the eye, there's 3 types. Symmetrical, so you can make a symmetrical arrangement. Left and right, top and bottom, all are the same, symmetrical. You could do asymmetrical, where they're unequal on both sides, or the heights are uneven. I'm a big fan of asymmetrical, because in the lack of symmetry, there is symmetry as long as you balance it. You can make it askew or helter-skelter, or Dr. Seuss, if you will, as long as you visually balance it in an asymmetrical fashion. And then there's open balance. What does that mean, Robbie? Why did you add a 3rd type of balance? I'm going to use a visual aid for that. We're going to talk about this little device after, but this is an example of open balance when it comes to the symmetry. What am I looking at? So when the flowers are inside, there's a radial balance. Once you put a flower in each of these cells that's already distributed for us, when you look above it, it's going to have a radial balance. If you take a vase that's like long and cylindrical and everything's lined up like this, that's a linear symmetry. So those are just 2 little extra ones, because they're all beautiful and wonderful. It's just when you're approaching something, a new arrangement, you kind of want to keep these elements in mind. All right, there's the boring little, well, it's not boring, but it's like the nitty gritty. Because my basic rule today, everyone, and any rule of any of the lectures we're doing, my father-in-law let me borrow his fit watch. Oh, there it is. You have to like tap it a million times so I can tell what time it is. Basically, the one rule of thumb today is have fun. There's going to be, you know, these are the 7 principles, but they're open to our interpretation of them. And the picky things that we have to adhere to as far as cutting, cleaning, preparing, and maintaining our flowers, okay, that's when we're going to follow some rules. But other than that, who cares? We can do whatever we want, as long as you're expressing yourself and having fun. You as a designer, you're a designer today with me. You have artistic liberty. All of design, whether it's costumes, wigs, makeup, house design, interior design, landscape design, floral design, you have your principles, you have your historical references that we can look at, but then the art of creation comes into play when you just have fun with it. And if you're having fun with it, you're always going to yield the best product. All right. So I want to show you, we're going to talk about picking our vessel, right? We have to start with our foundation. We have to start with whatever's going to hold the water. Today, we're going to do a vase arrangement. If we weren't doing a vase arrangement with water, we could do what? The green foam, usually called oasis. Remember that green foam? You see it sometimes in a vase at the bottom. It holds the water, and then you stick the flowers into it. We can do that another time, and I'll kind of show you what application is best to use oasis, the green foam, and what application is best to do a water vase arrangement. There's also dried flower arrangements, there's silk arrangements. We could go on and on and on and on. Okay, so when addressing which kind of vase we're going to use today to kind of like get into it, I want to show you two items that you might not know about. I have little notes on them, but I don't really need the notes. I can come back over here. So this is one of my little treasures. I call anything that I found along my way or I really love or I don't ever plan to get rid of, one of my little treasures. So this is, does anyone know what this is? So this is a removable unit that comes out of, you know, we've seen this before, a glass vase. This is called a flower frog. What? Flower frog. So flower frog originated in the Japanese art of kazan, and it's usually a metal plate. It used to be basically a metal plate that you would put at the bottom of your vessel that had needles. Okay, why? So the purpose of it, this is such a, luckily I put a lot of hairspray in my hair. Again, like I said, I'm prioritizing the flowers and kind of cutting myself out of everything. That's fine. So basically this is going to give you your structure, right? It's going to kind of do some of the job for you because you could use these cells to put the flowers in and to get your rain, and it kind of stabilizes it. And then not like, because that's another thing with balance. Your flowers can end up all stunad and falling all over the place. It happens to me too. And they have to redo it. The other kind of aid you can use is called, it's called a metal. I'm having a, what do they call? Oh, doily, duh. It's a metal doily. I don't know if you could see if I go like this. See, look there, guys, ladies and gentlemen. It's a metal doily. These have been around forever. Again, too, that this is on the, you know, like a ribbed jar, and you screw it on, but that's going to aid you too in your making of the arrangement. Okay, so we're not going to cheat today and use these, but I love them because they have a nostalgia to them. They look old-fashioned and vintage, and I love everything that's old. New again. Okay, so those are two little things I wanted to show you. I didn't know if you had worked with before. So I'm going to put those off to the side because in my creative process, I make a mess, and that's okay. Because we're going to come out with a pretty product and we're going to have fun. And what's one of our main rules is having fun. So again, so let's talk about a few more vessels. I'm going to do a garden party today with some of my residents. And we're going to be doing what you wear to a garden party and the history of Queen Elizabeth's garden parties, her annual garden parties. So we're going to talk about the fashion, the clothes, the etiquette, and they'll get a few flowers. But coming up, I'm going to be doing some arrangements in non-traditional vessels. So when we're not working with a flower frog or a metal doily or a traditional vase, how about a teacup? It's a very English of us. So what are we going to do? Drink our flowers? No, we're going to use something pretty that can hold water. But with this application, so you don't have anything splashing all over the place and it won't be stabilized, we are going to bind the teacup to the saucer temporarily so you can still use them again. And we use that green foam I was talking about that holds water. You saturate it in water, and then we're going to build the whole unit, the whole flower arrangement out of the teacup. So we're going to have like a little in the garden moment. So that's one application. Other kind of applications that you could use a mug. I'm a sucker for cut glass. This is very pretty. I found this at a vintage store. I love cut glass. It's got a fluted shape. You could use a ball, you know, a round shaped ball. This is an example. This is a very tight little antique vase. This is perfect because I don't know if you know, when you have a flower, say you're doing a flower arrangement or when you buy it at the store, like the head popped off what am I to do? I love flowers like I do dogs and children. I don't kill them. So give them a chance. See how stumpy she is? Hope I got a trimmer. But just give her something with a tight neck to hold the water. It doesn't even need that much water to keep her alive. And she's been kicking for a week. So if something's been deadheaded in your garden, lost its stem, give her a chance. Pull up some of the dead petals. This girl's been going for a week. She looks amazing. I would never let her die. But you're choosing the vessel that's most appropriate for the application. You're not going to do a huge arrangement when the when the mouth of the vase is so small. But for this, it's perfect. I'm actually going to put it there because that's pretty in the foreground. All right. So, Robbie, what kind of shape is going to be easy to work with? Again, you all probably have different levels of skill. That's amazing. Different walks of life. Whatever you fancy, you can do. For me, you know, a lot of times you'll get an arrangement. If someone sends you an arrangement, you buy an arrangement, you have a cylinder. They're cool. I think they're a little challenging at first because it's kind of difficult to know quite how high to make them. And the shape of it, I think, is not the most universally friendly. In this vase, I have some beautiful little tendril ferns. I'll bring it closer. See, the one stinker about ferns is they shed. But see the shape of this shape is actually nice. It's like almost what you'd say is a traditional vase shape, and it's got a fluted neck. Flute, like, you know, you almost should call it a trumpet neck because it splays out. That's my favorite. I don't care how many arrangements I do. That's my particular favorite vessel to work with. I just think it lends itself to creating a nice, beautiful arrangement. And my style, I like to do pretty much like a Victorian vibe. Victorian arrangements are usually round. They kind of have like I mean, most arrangements too, but Victorian arrangements have a round shape and or an oval form, and they're kept low. And they only go up about 1.5 as high as the vessel. So I think I'm going to use this vase. She's speaking to me today. It's got that trumpet. You know, some would say it's fluted. I'm going to say it's a trumpet. I'm not the musician in the family, but I'll pretend to be. It's got a flute. It's like flared. So I'm going to use this today. It's got ribs. I think it's quite pretty. So basically, your overall arrangement based on a Victorian floral arrangement principle, it's going to be 1.5 the height of the vase. So it's not going to be like jugund. It's not going to be down here. You know, it's going to be approximately 1.5 the height of the vase that you're doing it. So where do we start? Okay, obviously we're going to add water, but one consideration I would like you to think of before you do your arrangement is, do you want anything at the bottom? Some people call them fillers. I call them accoutrements. I'm here today with all you lovely folks. So I'm like, why not? I'm feeling like putting a little something at the bottom of the vase. This is the point where before you put your water in, this is when you're going to consider, am I going to put broken sea glass? Am I going to put seashells for a Asbury Park kind of vibe? Crystals, stones. Today, I feel like pearls. Why not? Because I'm doing a historical garden party lecture later. I'm feeling very like Victorian. Let's do some pretty pearls. These will, in fact, stay at the bottom. I know people are like, what? You might have 1 or 2 float up, but they'll sink eventually. So this is what you would add these to the vessel first. So I'm going to kind of like hand put them in so they're not like clunk, 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 because that's ugly to hear. So yeah, just fill the bottom, however high up you want. I'll go about that much. And the reason I'm doing this, it's like, yeah, if you do the arrangement at the end and say like, ew, I don't like them. I don't want them in there. Of course, you can pull the arrangement out and then dig them out, but you're kind of like fighting against yourself. You want some nice room temperature water, clean water. Don't use recycled water. Fill her up. I like to fill my vases, let's say a little more than half. Not quite 3/4. Okay. That could stand to have a little more water in it, but it's fine for our purposes right now. When changing, you know, people say, oh, change the water, change the water. I was always, is that really a thing? Who cares? It's flowers. But there's actually legitimacy to it. because from the stems being in the water and God forbid leaves being in the water, you're going to get bacteria and crud and stuff, and it will compromise the lifespan of your cut flowers. So you do want to always put fresh water in and change it. So isn't that pretty? I just feel like with the refracting light, I kind of was like, those pearls are interesting. Okay, so basically now that we have our vessel, we've chosen our vessel. I told you why I chose it, because it has a trumpet neck. I find that the easiest and the most accessible to work with. But of course you can work with any shape or size. I mean, we can even do an arrangement in this little jam jar. I decided to put the little filler at the bottom, filled it up, you know, a little more than halfway with fresh room temperature water. I mean, it could be ice cold water, but why? You know, room temperature is absolutely fine. I wouldn't do warm water. Sometimes when you're trying to re-drenchify your roses, you might want to give them a fresh cut and not put them in cold water because it'll kind of shock them. You want that water to absorb in, so you would want more of a room temperature to slightly warm, but by no means would you want like a hot or a, you know, anything that's hot to the touch. So let's talk about, we talked about the vessel, we talked about the filler. Let's kind of talk about a foundation. People call them filler. I'm kind of like, no, they're not fillers. Everybody's important. That's a negative word. It's like an accoutrement. Your greens. You can build, before we start putting all the pretty color in, why don't we start building our foundation? I think if I go right here, this is good. Let's see. Okay, yeah, you can see it there. Okay, so we're gonna build our foundation because you don't want the flowers flopping all over the place, and you're not doing like a tape. You could tape a grid to kind of cheat and give yourself a little quadrants to put the flowers in. But today we're gonna do it with greens. Is that all right? So what we like to work with a lot of times, and you probably have seen in your own arrangements that you might buy at the store or people have given you as gifts, is leather fern. It has some crazy old name. I wrote it down for you. It's so easy just to say leather fern. It's fern. It's a type of forest fern commonly used in arrangements. It's from the tropical southern hemisphere. It's good to store, before you use it, it's good to store it in a cool, moist environment. And it's an excellent foundation builder. I will not, I'm gonna say its name. Rumaru adiantiformis. That's a lot. Fern, ladies and gentlemen. Fern. I like common names. These, I swear, these flower names are so tricky. Okay, so let's look at some leather fern. So another good rule of thumb, you don't want greens in your water, all right? So this one I kind of cheated and pruned first, but let's look at this guy. So basically, when I'm gonna put, here's fern. Looks like a fern. Okay, so this is called leather leaf. I kind of hold it up to the vase and I look to see, is it, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? This is a trick on Broadway when we're styling wigs. You do it in a mirror. So you are all my mirror and my subject is looking at you. But guess what? You might not be able to see what I'm doing. If I go like this, let me see, if I go like this might help because then you can see the shape better. Okay, there she is. Now I see the fern. So you kind of hold it up and you want it, your baseline foundation, you want to kind of create like a star with your fern and do them in opposing sides. So this to me is a little tall. So right now you can see it. It's a little tall to be the first layer of fern foundation. So basically take your snips. So right there, hold it up to the vase. I want to take about an inch off of it. I'm kind of thinking these greens might be a little close to the water. What do? Pinch them off. Just pinch them off. You're not hurting the flower. I basically keep a green bucket for compost, but those little snippets of greenery you could put in a small little vase like we were talking about. So what am I going to do with this now? I'm going to put it in at an angle, utilizing that flute. Actually, I can go like this. Utilizing the fluted shape of the, or trumpet shaped vase. See what I did there? I put it in an angle. I want to create like a 5-star or a 4-star foundation right above the lip of the vase. It's so much easier just to do it. It'll explain it easier because you might be like, Robbie, what are you talking about? So this one's already shorter. This piece of fern is already shorter because I pruned it already. I took off anything that I thought was a little too brown, gave it a fresh snip. So this one would be great as your forward one, right? So basically too, when we get to the flowers, you're gonna see which ones are best to put where. So right now I have one going that way, one going that way. So now, right, we have one side forward, now I need the opposite side and back, right? Creating a star. So this one, I'm pinching off some of the bottom leaves. I think the height is good, I'm checking it, and I'm gonna go to the back with it. Okay, now let's go opposite this one. So height, she could use a little, see I'm basically holding the fern and the stem up to the vase before I put it in, just to kind of like eyeball the height. I want basically like barely an inch off. Pinch off some of the greens. Remember, no green in the water. It'll disintegrate, it'll get corrosive, it'll smell. No greens in the water. That's one of those rules that you should adhere to. That's never going to change. It's never going to change for any of us. You cannot have greens in your water. It will corrode and get your water all stinky, and it'll jeopardize the lifespan of your flower arrangement. Okay, so that's good for like level 1 of the star. Now I kind of want to start building up like a tier. So see how they're not quite horizontal, they still have an angle to them, but now this next one, I want far more, maybe like a 90-degree angle. So these this level, the height is probably good. You're intersecting your stems, all right? So see how that one's far more erect, more up? See that? Now we're doing level 2. So that bottom level had 5 ferns intersecting, left, right, front, back. Now we're staggering in a second level at a higher angle with a taller stem. Let's check this guy. He's a little tall, just snip off the bottom. 45, you know what a 45-degree angle is. Always a good idea. Why? So when the stem goes to the bottom of the vase, you're not having a flat end sit on the bottom. It'll just, if you do a 45, it just gives them more of an opportunity for the water to soak into the bottom of the stem. So here we go, plunk that one in. Wow, so see, now it's up there. We're like, oh, we're kind of getting a shape going, see? And that's literally 7 pieces of fern. It just really gives you your proper foundation before you layer in all the pretty flowers. Okay, so those I had pre-cut. Let me, now I have to actually cut some stuff. Lots of cutting involved. You know what? Nice, clean, sterilized shears. You know, depends on how big your hands are. These are actually camping ones to do like little, I'll show you. These are kind of my favorite. See? They're a nice size. You want to get one that you feel comfortable with. There was a pair that were so tiny, I was pinching my hand. So it depends on your hand shape, what size and shape clippers. These are a little bigger. I think these guys are my favorite. They're actually camping shears. Boop, boop, boop. And cleaning is important because, God forbid, one of your plants is sick or flowers is sick, you will transfer that to another specimen. So don't do that. And I'm kind of picky. A lot of times flowers come bound in a rubber band. I kind of snip the rubber band with a scissor. I don't like using my clippers because, right, we're trying to keep our clippers sterile, our flower cutting clippers sterile. And I don't want to dull them cutting a rubber band, you know? But when you're doing any kind of arrangements, you're going to run into rubber bands and clipping. All right, so this guy is really big. We're going to take off a little piece of it. We're not really in danger. We're not really in danger of going in the water now because we're so much more above the mouth of the vase. So this one I'm going to do center back. Okay. See, so you're really starting to create your shape. So I did center back. Let's do center forward. So this one's going forward. I don't really want her too high down in front, right? Give her 45. Nestle her forward. So basically, I mean, in a long drawn out way, I'll simplify it. You're basically just alternating left, right, front, back, left, right, front, back. And it would even be great to do it on an angle too. Like my last layer. So now I've done 2 layers. I did five ferns down here. I did 4 up here. Now this next level, maybe let's do 3. And I'm gonna want them like here, see? Because then that'll give us more of a dome shape. And these I'm gonna put on like an axis. I'm not gonna do left, right, front, back. I'm gonna do like split the difference this way, this way, this way, and create like a three-sided star. If I had an overhead camera, we could see that. But I'm telling you, it's a good surefire way to give yourself a nice foundation shape to work with. Okay, here we go. I'm basically gonna go, before we were going in an angle, now we're basically gonna go straight down, right? Because we've created very varied heights. You want that. You want it like a tier. And it'll make sense once we start nestling in the flowers. Okay, so say I go in and I'm like, whoa, baby, that one's too tall. Just pull her out carefully. You always want to support the arrangement when you pull something out. It's not desirable because the branches could have intersected and then you'll pull out your whole arrangement. So kind of like spot the other pieces when you pull stuff out. You know, we're human. Sometimes you don't get it on the first try. Okay, so now I'm going to go opposite that other one I did. Let's say, nice. And you know what? Plants are not symmetrical. They're not. So your goal can be symmetry, but if it's a little off, it's all right. We can compensate for it with other greenery or when we add in the fresh flowers. This guy's really tall. Okay, and I feel like going on this side with that. Okay, so this is an example. I like this guy better for center back. So I'm just gonna carefully spot. See, this one doesn't want to come out. If something doesn't want to come out, if you feel like you're gonna ruin the arrangement, leave her. If she ain't bugging anybody, that's fine. So I'm just gonna go down center with her. This one. I just felt like this one's good and presentational. I want it in the center. And see, even I was not able to pull out the other fern that I wanted to move. So guess what? She's gonna stay put. You really want to look at your tips. I have a tendency to just nip everything, but say, well, Robbie, I want the height. I don't want to cut that much off. Barely just clean up that end. Because what starts to happen is at the bottom of the flower, you're gonna get brown. If you look at the bottom of your vase and the tips of your flowers or your greenery are brown, it's like, ruh-roh, she's being compromised. So you want to make sure you're giving them a fresh cut. All right, right now I'm being particular. Me, particular, what? I'm trying to find a front center. I'm gonna come over here. Here we go. Here's a closer look at Fern. Isn't she beautiful? She's got a rigidity to her, you know, and it's long lasting. It's quite nice. I want to do one kind of forward, front center, and make sure she kind of, you know, tips up. You don't want to see the back of her. You want to see a nice profile of her. So I'm gonna give her a little snip. And always, when you're approaching something, grabbing the end and like you're putting a dart instead of like, oh, do it with direction. Just like when you're combing your hair, have direction. You're in control. It's gonna fight you. Fight it back. So you want to put it in with direction. Because like you might have had this experience sometimes where literally you put the whole arrangement together and then all of a sudden the whole thing pops out on you. So I think that's looking pretty good. I'm not going to dare move my camera. I'm going to move my vase. See, so she's getting pretty. I think she needs a little more center. Let's see. Really pretty. Heavy as heck. Of course, I had to go pick a heavy vase. I love vases. I love cut glass. They're like, that's another passion of mine. Okay, so snips, and I think I need 2 in the center, and then we're gonna move on. So this is just leather fern, and you see it's already gotten you such a nice, I'm gonna tuck these 2 guys right here. Oh no, this little piece is flat. Just pinch it off with your fingernail. You don't even need the clippers, just pinch it with your nail. If something gives away to your nail, they're absolutely acceptable. You know, you'll find if you, to clean up a petal leaf, just peel her up gently, use your fingernail, but now we have a nice overall shape. Okay, so I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, my friend Michelle was kind of curious about these little tentacle looking dudes. We're gonna get to that in a minute. You kind of wanna have a focal point when you're starting an arrangement. Let's call it a jumping off point. There's gonna be other pieces that are kind of supporting, but flowers like roses, aren't these pretty? These are variegated. Or a peony, or a lily, or I have to look at my cue cards for this. This one's got a wicked name. These are, hold on. Let's see. Okay, anthurium. They're beautiful. They are also known as a flamingo flower. Isn't that awesome? So this to me, ladies and gentlemen, this would be, I know I have a ton of greenery here, but I kind of want to give you I kind of want to move on and like get the basics, and then we can embellish after. So this I would consider a focal point. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's called anthurium, and it's also known as a flamingo flower. I like flamingo flower. That sounds happy. They symbolize hospitality with an open heart, kind of like the shape of them, and they inspire happiness and abundance. They are some of the longest lasting flowers, so they might be a little more expensive. Like this one head of flower, maybe $4, but it's going to last you a long time. So to me, that makes her a focal point, wouldn't you say? Before I stick her in, because maybe we don't want her to be our focal point. What's another focal point, Robbie? All right, let's see. I would say lilies. Lilies are good focal points. Moving over. Okay. These are actually, these are really, really beautiful. And they're not even all open up yet. It's kind of nice to pick ones that have a bud and some that are more advanced. These are oriental lilies, and this particular kind right here, this big old fluffy thing, it's called a Miss Lucy double. It attracts butterflies, and it's related to the Marco Polo lily, but the Marco Polo lily is pinker and it's not double. See how this has like double ruffles, double layers? I think that could be a really beautiful focal point too. I think I have a pink oriental lily that's already loose out of the package. So I'm gonna grab that, and that would be a nice focal point. So you guys can know what I'm talking about. You can start just peppering in roses or whatever your selection is, Gerber daisies. But I think it's nice when you kind of grab something as your focal point and then build around it, okay? Because what's gonna happen is it's going to communicate your other decisions. So to me, this is a nice focal point. Okay, focal point. What the heck are we talking about now? So when we put it up to the vase, she's quite higher. I kind of want her to live there. So it's always good to kind of take your stem and measure next to the vase before you put it in and before you cut. So basically I'm gonna eyeball it. Remember, doing a 45. I want her there. Okay, I want her a little lower. Kind of want her even more low. There you go. And you'll see when I nestle her into the arrangement, it'll make sense. So focal point, I want it forward. And lilies by nature, they're asymmetrical, right? The buds are at different heights, but you've got this nice bloom starting. If you put it in the center, do dead center, it'll still have some asymmetrical qualities to it just by the nature of the flower. It's really hardy. I think lilies make a very good like centerpiece or focal point. These leaves, are we okay with these? No, but below the water line, pinch them off. Even this guy and this guy. I know, I compost them though. You're not hurting them. I know me, I'm like, more green the better. But you really need everything off before the water line. It'll look prettier, it'll smell prettier, and the flowers will last longer. Okay. I have to be in front to do this, sorry. You see my booty. All right, so that kind of starts to give the arrangement point of view, right? You got this big, prevalent lily in the front. You got two buds on the way. But are we done? Are we done? Heck no. Let's have some supporting characters. Let's see. We're probably gonna go on with some roses, but before we get there, I want to talk about a flower that Michelle was curious about. Anyone know what this is? How pretty, how green. These are bells of Ireland. Bells of Ireland. They're also called like a seashell flower. Match my eyes and my shirt. No, they look like little shells. Aren't they beautiful? And they kind of give us a tropical and like beachy octopus kind of vibe, but they're bells of Ireland. How cool, right? So these I think would be awesome coming out the top. Way too high, right? But maybe we want that height. Maybe we want a bit of drama, but I think not that much. So let's do a 45 and maybe another 45. It would be an artistic choice if you were going to have it floating out in space. But I don't think it needs to be that. I remember when I'm putting it in, it's like a dart. You put a flower in like it's a dart. You don't like grab it by its trunk. You just want woof, with direction. Let's put it right there. Okay, a little too asymmetrical for my taste. What are we gonna do? Well, let's do, so now we're starting to develop our shape. We got this guy coming out this way. We have a beautiful bloom here. We know this one's higher, this one's lower, and it'll start to fill in. But I definitely want more visual balance on this side. So let's put another bell of Ireland. Bells of Ireland. That's my bad Irish accent. I hope everybody had a nice St. Patrick's Day and a nice Easter, where we're celebrating Easter. Okay, so let's do one on this side to kind of mirror it. All right, come around. So make decisions. This guy kind of bends this way. My impulse is that I want one to bend that way, one to bend this way. But if it starts to look like a crazy tentacle or something, or a bug, maybe we'll reassess that. Putting it in with direction, aiming like a dart. Oh, it's resisting me a little, but that's good because that means we have a strong foundation. Okay, I got her in. So stand back, always kind of look at what you're doing. It is looking a little tendrically, but you know what? Maybe we're gonna create a moment up here and it'll start to make sense. I have two other ferns, maybe balancing them left and right will kind of make sense of those. So basically you're putting in your foundation pieces and everything else will fill in. And you can always take something out. If you're like, whoa, this went down a weird road. Working in odd numbers usually yields more success. So whether you do 1 piece, 3 piece, 6 piece, it kind of gives you a better visual balance. I'm curious to see what this would do down center, this fern. So pointing with direction. It's hard because you have a foundation of the fern, but you'll get in there. You just have to kind of work your way in. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I kind of like that. It brings it forward. It's kind of making sense. But now I feel like I need 2 left and right.
Robbie, we have a couple questions.
Go for it.
One was, what do you clean or sterilize the shears with?
I do rubbing alcohol.
Okay.
I do like 70% isoperic or whatever it's called. Alcohol.
Yep. And then another question is, do most flower shops have the bells of Ireland, and are they expensive?
You'll probably pay $3 to $4 a pop per stock. They come in individual.
Are they pretty common?
Yeah, but time of year.
Okay.
You won't really, this is a good time for them.
Yep.
But they shouldn't be that hard to find, and you can grow them. Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, this is like rigid. Woo, baby. Okay, but you know what? She's creating a cool shape. She's looking kind of octopusy and Sputnik-y. So, I wish I could. Oh, I can't point. Duh. I'm like, I wish I could point to what. So right here, ladies and gentlemen, here and here need something, because now we're kind of making more of like a fanned out shape, and I'm liking it. I am liking it. It's looking very romantic to me, but literally we need to balance because we've got 3 ferns in the front. We've got 2 bells of Ireland. We've got the 3, the lily is going to open up. We've got the ones that are coming. We need something else going on. I will not go in with a rose. We'll probably put roses in, but why not go in with the rose? It'll just float around. It needs to be surrounded with something. So you would like to have something that's, you want to have something that's more full and lush right here. So before we get to roses, because I think roses are more like your accent and your like good quality pieces, I want something that'll fill more. Alstroemeria. What the heck is that? I used to call it Astromeria. It's Alstroemeria. Peruvian lily. Let me find some. So I was not a huge fan of Alstroemeria at first because I thought they looked wilted. I was like, these things are wilted. Why do people put them in their arrangement? I want hardy. They are extremely hardy. They are, like I said, a Peruvian lily, Alstroemeria. they are just hardier than you think, and they actually last a long time. So even if you see them and they're a little like, they come from South America, and they are like from the mountains of Peru, from Chile and stuff like that. They were discovered in the 18th century by a Swedish explorer, Klaus Alstromer. There you go. There's her name, Alstromeria. And when you're using a lily, so see, we have our big mama lilies, our big oriental lilies. Nice to have little baby lilies because it gets us in that mind. Ooh, there's more blooms to come. So that's kind of one of my tricks. Is I'll put Alstromeria in harmony with full-size lilies, because as the other buds open, it kind of creates the lily vibe already. They're really beautiful, and a lot of times people don't know that they're a form of lily. So let's get.
They're very common, Robbie, in the supermarket.
Yeah.
A lot of people shop for flowers every week. I've actually had those stay alive and look beautiful for like 2 weeks. Easy.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So
I also like the green on them. I like the color of the greenery on the leaves of those.
yeah, they're so point. So right now, I was digging in my laboratory. I was trying to find two sisters. Remember, they're never going to be identical, and that's okay. But these are two sisters. They're very perky and full, and they're going to go left and right. And you're going to see how it's going to transform the symmetry of the arrangement. So it's kind of like you are going left, right, back, front, this, that, ooh, that. But it will yield you success. I wanted to keep it really rudimentary the first time, and then we can get all, out of the box. But it'll just lead you to success, and you'll have a beautiful arrangement every time. So I'm going to measure. I want them to live a little shorter than that. So I'm going to do a 45, take about an inch, really get a nice clean 45 on that. And again, I'm going to put it in like an arrow, and I'm going to go at an angle. I want this to live right there. See what that does? It kind of just starts to fill in that space. And then we're going to put one on the opposite side. Make sure the height is generally around the same height, because you don't want to be arbitrary. You don't want to be like, I'm going to willy-nilly cut this. Well, you're going to do it, and then that stem is going to be floating in nowhere. You really want it in the water. Remember, the goal is to keep them alive and beautiful. So you don't want to just arbitrarily cut it to whatever length and just, hope for the best. All right. Okay, so she's a little high. Take her out, as long as it doesn't, when you're taking something out, you kind of just want to like shimmy it out so you're not pulling the whole arrangement apart. And like Michelle said, you can really almost always get your hands on Alstromeria, and don't be intimidated by them. They really are one of the hardiest, long-lasting flowers you can get. Okay, so I think we need to put one back center. I'll get my little paper towel tray, so you can start to see the shape. Oh, you know what? We can do this. Does that kind of help? So you can see the shape. So I want something center between the bells of Ireland. So let's do another piece of Alstro.
Robbie, we have a public service announcement from Beth.
Okay.
Cut flowers may have been sprayed with pesticides that poison pets that may chew on them. I lost a cat that chewed on. I've also heard that cats are allergic to lilies, and they're poisonous to cats. Lilies are poisonous to cats. So if you have, I don't know if you have dealt with doing, floral arrangements for cat lovers, but it's something to consider if the person is a cat owner.
Absolutely. No, first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. We've all been there, whatever circumstance. We all love our pets, and how horrible. So I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah, absolutely a huge consideration. If you ever have a question, Google, go on Google and check it out. We have golden retrievers, AKA dumpsters, garbage pickers. They'll eat it. So, it's always a consideration, because you think, oh, the cats can get up on anything. Well, guess what? The dogs can get into anything. Okay, so right now, I want to create some interest around the neck of the vase, because we have so much beautiful interest going up there. I'm going to grab some eucalyptus. Isn't this beautiful? There's seeded and not seeded. This is not seeded. So I want it, this I could just break apart. Eucalyptus, you could just use your hands and break off a sprig. And I'm going to kind of, it's going to flop. So I kind of want it to spill over the vase because it'll give it a very romantic kind of vibe. So again, going at the base, tucking her in, and see what that's doing. That's kind of like, oh, the arrangement starts up here. No. It cascades. Give it a little bit of a romantic vibe. So this one's very stocky. So I'm just going to angle cut it because I don't want all that wood. It's going to take up, this is the other trick. You could be like, oh, I'll just pull it apart. It's going to take up visual, it's going to take up space in the vase. Oh, I didn't have my favorite clippers. There we go. It's going to take space in your vase, and you really want to make sure that your flowers all have room because you're not done with your arrangement. So I went on that side with this. I'm going to tuck this into this side, give it some visual balance. And there you go. Your eucalyptus is really good for that. Whether it's seeded or not, it kind of creates some interest. Okay, so I think this is a good moment for a rose. Do you all see what I'm seeing? You know what? I'm going to throw caution to the wind. See what I'm seeing here? I'm seeing a parking spot there and a parking spot there. So basically, we're looking for those moments where we can start putting more of our featured pieces in. And for me, this is screaming it wants a rose and maybe something more there. Okay, so let's see. Let's go. Hopefully I didn't disrupt the world by moving the camera.
Robbie, you're really following the rule of three, which, when we talk about it, when we're, in art class, that rule, that compositional rule of the odd number versus the even Steven, really creating more visual interest.
Absolutely. It's just so much more interesting. And Michelle, don't you think it just helps the eye travel better?
Yeah.
Then looking at like 2, 4, like so.
We call it the Holy Trinity.
Absolutely. Same thing with cooking. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to go in there with like a big, nice featured rose. This is a beautiful garden rose. Nice. I get yelled at. I squeeze roses. You're not supposed to. You'll bruise them. But I just want to make sure it's strong. I love that feeling because they're good quality. But because it's been a night since she's been watered, see how this is getting brown or gooky? Give her a 45. That's what you want to see. Verdant, green, white, healthy. She's going to soak up the water and it'll make her even happier. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to the left and the right of the lily because we created a parking spot there now. Ooh, we made a tight arrangement, folks. But you know what? Whether you're giving this as a gift or you're putting this on your coffee table or your dining room table, you want there to be rigidity. You don't want the flowers flopping all over the place. Okay, so I kind of like the stagger, and you want to stagger heights. You don't want it all to be one boring height. I'm gonna kind of grab a rose of the same height. Again, because they're gonna be sisters, not twins. Again, freshen up that end. That's not a good end. Boop. There's legitimacy to it. Always trim your ends and put her in room temperature water. All right, so because we like a little, asymmetrical odd numbers, I kind of want something forward. I don't know if those roses are too large, so maybe I'm gonna get another kind of feature piece. We could go in with Gerbera. People love Gerbera, but I don't know about you all. I'm kind of feeling a tulip moment. Can we do a tulip in the front? Mix it. The other thing too is we can be odd in our numbers with our species. That's another way to create the visual interest of like, I have truckloads of roses, but like, why? Just kind of mix it up a bit. And I have a nice variegated, is it French tulip? No, it's like a hybrid tulip. You'll see it's got like a roughly crinkled look to it. And the other thing too is what I like in arrangements, I like them kind of to cascade forward. And a tulip will kind of do that for you because they're top heavy, right? So you don't want something that's going to stick up straight. That's not fun in front. You want it to kind of cascade forward because it'll look more romantic. I think this one's my winner. Right? So ladies and gentlemen, so what did I say? I want this to go forward. See how she'll tilt for you? See? And it's got a nice watermelon-y pink kind of color to it. And I'm going to go dead center with it, right? Odd numbers. So we've got rose, tulip, rose.
Did you cut the bottom, Robbie, of that one?
Yes, ma'am. Look at Michelle. Awesome.
No, I always wondered about tulips.
Yes, do it. The thing is, you're going to lose height.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes why I don't do it, but it's okay. These are really exceptionally long and beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so, I mean, I love tulips because it feels like you're touching celery or like a scallion or something. It's so verdant. It's so like wet. Favorite. Same thing with stock flower. It just feels so alive. But this is going to give us that romantic cascade forward. And also, Michelle, don't you think this more of a lime green always is a pretty punctuation, kind of like the Bells of Ireland. It's got that just super, super awesome green color. And I love the green of the Alstroemeria too. You want different shades of green. Here's my interest. So we're gonna go dead center with this.
I noticed you're doing like variations on pink and green.
Yeah, tonal. That's one of my, I wanted to do one of my favorite color combinations. It's not baby. That's why I like to put the watermelon pink in. I love green and pink together. I just think they're one of, it roots back to Marie Antoinette, and Madame Pompadour. In the 18th century, the loving pink, but also counterpointing it with blue. Blue or like teal or aqua, you can never go wrong. And because that color doesn't really exist naturally in the floral world, green is a great runner-up to it. They're just a perfect complement to one another. So I'm going to kind of bring us in just so we see where we're going with this. So you kind of have like the blueness of the eucalyptus. You have the watermelon pink. The pink inside the lily is going to be much more vibrant as well. You have the pastel blush garden rose, like a variegated pink color in the Alstroemeria. And then that like green mixed with the darker greens. I'm kind of really, and remember, these lilies are going to open. So that's going to fill in a lot of your negative space. But maybe you're impatient. Maybe you're like, I want more things going on right now. I don't want to just have to wait for my lilies to open up. So what do you all think? We could do dianthus. Do you know what dianthus is? It's like fancy carnation. I don't use a lot of carnations because I'm kind of like, why? We don't have to use carnations. But that's dianthus. You've probably seen that in the store too. Really beautiful. These two, their stalks are very wet and lush. Let's see. I know. I wish we could have people come and be like, I think you should have this. Basically, what I'm going for is right here. I'd like to put a little something in, and I don't want to just put more Alstroemeria in because all that's going to open up a lot more. Maybe we can do. I'm trying to get my inspiration. See, now this is an example. I wouldn't add Gerbera. Now, the minute you add Gerbera to it, you're gonna make it more modern. So these are the best-selling flowers in the world. Do you know that? Not roses, Gerbera. You probably see them at the store like all the time. They're the most popular selling flower. But the minute you put that into the arrangement, it's gonna make it more modern. Heck, let's do it. Let's make more of a romantic mix. Like take it a little further away from the romantic and make it more modern. I initially thought, oh no, we're not going to use Gerbera. But I actually do like the counterpoint of it, the hot pink with the light pink. I have a daughter, she's 5 and she loves pink. My impulse was never like pale pink. You see that trend a lot in weddings, really pale baby pink. I like much more of the vibrant, hued. I talk about it in my fashion lectures too. So I didn't think I was gonna put Gerber in it. Let's do it. And like I said, you can get these almost anywhere. We're probably gonna do 2, let's do 3. Also, I find, we could do all monochromatic, all the same tones, but I kind of like a juxtaposition of different tones of the same color family. And the contrast of green and pink. Cool. Fresh cut. Okay, so do you guys see where I'm gonna go with that? I'm gonna go here. See, it kind of modernizes it. Before it was maybe a little like wistful, is that a word? Now it's gonna have a little more of a point of view. Wow, we made a stiff structure. That's good. You want it to have, you don't want it wobbling. You know, you were delivering this to somebody, man, it's not gonna go anywhere. I cannot get that in. There we go. All right, tuck them in. And remember the thing, as long as you don't overcut, you can pull them, you know, pull them out a little. As long as they're in the water, it's good. Or
Robbie,
you can, yes.
Can I ask you, how long does it, I mean, is this, you're doing this in real time?
Yeah.
Like how long does an arrangement like this take? Is this about how long each one takes? I mean, I'm just asking because I have a new appreciation for, you know, the art of doing this and how thoughtful each piece and, you know, each cut, it does take time, I guess.
Definitely. Can I, as I answer Michelle, I just want to say one thing. Mm-hmm. I was not liking, ladies and gentlemen, them like bip and bop, but I much rather them now that I staggered the heights, because what it did was it articulated for me that one right here is good. It's just going to give me a balance that I'm finding pleasing, having the staggered height. So when you're doing something and you put it in, give it a chance, because you might be like, oh my God, it's horrible. What did I do? It's a monster. But you know what? It's the creation process. Just kind of troubleshoot it. And as long as you don't overcut the stems, it'll kind of articulate to you what it needs. Let the flowers tell you what they need and you'll lead to success. Okay, so this could be done in 20 minutes. I can do it in 20 minutes.
If you weren't talking.
Well, but Michelle, you know what it is? Okay, so let me tell you y'all one thing too. Sometimes when you get the Gabbera, whether you buy them from a wholesaler or you buy them from like, you know, the supermarket, they'll have this shaft. This is just to protect the stems so they don't get deadheaded. For this application, because I'm going right near the vase mouth, I'm going to take the I'm going to take the sheath off because I don't need them, right? I don't need them to be that erect. There I do, but I'm going lower with them, right, ladies and gentlemen? So we're gonna measure. See, I wanna repeat the darker hued color down here. I just feel like I need to bring it down there because I have it there, and I just need it lower to the vase. So this one's gonna get about 3 inches off. See how much I cut? Because I really want her to be nestled in the bottom. I want to draw the eye down there. And man, I don't think I've ever made as tight of a, maybe because I'm on camera, I made such a tight fit. Okay. Yes, I'm happy with her. Let me grab another one. Do we have any other questions as I fight Gabbera?
I think overall, if you had a budget, say, of like 25 bucks.
Yeah.
And you were going to the supermarket, or maybe 20 bucks. You're going to the supermarket and you're buying flowers to maybe make an arrangement or two for your dining room table. Would you, I think, I mean, I'm going to answer my own question. I think I'm sort of shocked at how much green you started with. And I always thought the green was an afterthought. So, but I kind of, you can get away with, it seems like a lot less flowers if you utilize your greenery properly.
Yeah. Because you can, Michelle, you can even go in your yard.
Yeah.
You can even go in your yard. So basically what I'm doing is I want these heads to go out. They're presenting. Everybody's presenting. And I think, we're always so taught everything should be the same height. When you stagger your height, it really creates such a romantic situation, I keep saying romantic. It's probably cliche. We're impressionists. That's my particular style. And like, see what I'm doing here? You can, don't break them, but you can judge. I'm zhuzhing, baby. I want you there. I want you there. And when you're picking the quality of the pieces, Michelle and company, like you actually don't need that much. You know, what do we have? We have 4 Gerbera, 2 garden roses, 1 lily, 1 tulip, 3 3 alstroemeria. So it's getting kind of full in there, but she could also have some more if you wanted a fuller vibe. Okay, so you were asking too, if you have $20 to work with, like where you know, what can we do with that? I think Alstro is a great place, the alstroemeria. I think Gerbera, because they just make everybody happy. And greens, like you said, having a nice green foundation. If you like green, I love how verdant it is. I love the freshness of it. But by all means, you could just do a smaller vase. That's the other thing, Michelle. People always think, big, I need to fill this. Well, don't use a big vase. Use a small one. Like, there's absolutely no reason if you're working on a smaller budget, just do a smaller vessel. Do like a jam jar. And then it can just be all flowers. Cut them short. You know how these are playing lower to the neck of the vase.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Robbie, can you hold it's getting lost, the final arrangement's getting lost a little bit. If you can hold it just hold it up maybe against something a darker background so we can see it in its entirety. And then yeah, good. That's good. That's good. Now we can really.
For me, hold on. Let's see, what time is it? Ooh. Are we getting to? Oh, we're at that time. Okay, so in my own. Oh, it is pretty. You never know because you're doing it backwards. In my eye, I think she's really in a happy place. It's very wispy and fun, but like, you know, you could do another Alstro. Remember, these are the Alstro, the Peruvian lily. Maybe like another Alstro nestled there. But I mean, you really don't need to because the eucalyptus gets you there. So it depends too. Is this going to sit on a coffee table or is this going to be on a mantle? You know, if she's on a mantle, yeah, let's get some more Alstro down there. Bring some more of the color down there. But if she's on your kitchen table, I think she's great the way, because remember, the lily's going to open. So I don't know. I have no idea what we talked about or what we did, but I hope there are a couple of takeaways from it. And yeah, that's kind of my vibe, people. Like, don't be afraid, explore, kind of, you know, work within the certain principles, but then just like have fun with it.
Yeah, I think what one of the things we learn, Robbie, is that it's really that balance of green and then adding the flowers, and then if you stick to a color, like you have pink, you have all different shades of pink.
Yeah.
So if you were to do like a supermarket run, you could do maybe like if it was an autumn or if it was something more like a summer, you could pick maybe yellow or I don't know. I'm trying to think of other color combinations that were monochromatic that would work.
Yeah, do a theme, and you can really work with any budget, and like doing a color story, like you said, or doing a nice green foundation. That's like a good, you know, I mean, and you have fun with it. This is obviously rather large, but like the greens really got you there. Cool.
It's really
cool. I know a lot of times people have succulent questions. We'll just do a quick succulent. Don't water them too much. Like literally between waterings, let the dirt dry. That's like, you're like, what? Yeah, if you feel it and it's dry, that's what you want.
Is there dirt in there? Is there dirt in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I needed to know about my succulent, because the dirt fell out when the dog knocked it over, and I don't know what I'm supposed to put in there. Dirt, rocks, I don't know.
Yeah, dirt. And basically don't overwater them, and in between waterings, let them dry out. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's always like, it should stay moist. No.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Robbie?
So did I miss it? How much would that floral arrangement do you feel estimate to be? Because it is gorgeous, really.
Oh. Well, thank you very much. That's very sweet and very kind. You know what? The biggest honest question is flowers vary in pricing, because that's how someone like me would price something is how much I have to spend on my materials, and then like the labor. But I would say, for my price range, I would think we could get her done for like 60 to 70.
Yep.
The thing is, when you're going local, I think you get a better deal. Honestly, that's a little trick people don't know. When you call a wire service or like a Teleflora or any of those places, they just fulfill them locally. So if you send someone flowers in California, you're just getting them wired there, and they're going to fulfill them locally. So it's always best to buy local, and I think you're going to get more bang for your buck. But yeah, that's
Robbie,
what.
Would you recommend, if you were sending flowers to someone in California, to find the nearest florist to that person, call them directly? And it's really better than
that's all. Well, that's what they're going to do, is they're just going to fulfill it through a local florist. So why not just go direct, support local, and to me that would be my approach, because I think you're going to get more bang for your buck and stuff like that. Personal, hand-done, curated is always gonna.
Yeah.
But there's room for Amazon and all the great marketplaces. But I think when you have like a local or someone that grows their own flowers, you'll get a better deal.
Yep. Yep.
It would be $100 or more, obviously.
Who has a question? Sarah, did you have a question?
Marcia.
Yes.
Marcia, I have a question. What in the Montclair area, where would you recommend for buying flowers for us to make our own arrangements, not having it pre-made, just for doing it ourselves? Where should I go?
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods. Okay.
Grocery.
Okay.
Or support like Richfield Farms, or just
Okay.
You know what? And everyone's like, how do you know what to get? What if it looks fresh? If it looks, just always go fresh. Because sometimes you have to compromise, with the weather and stuff. Remember, flowers, it's just like produce and food. Sometimes things aren't available. So instead of like, I need peonies or I need dahlias, which are some of the most expensive and hard to get, just open your mind to maybe something you can get more locally and get creative with them.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
I also, Marcia, it's always trial and error for me. Sometimes ShopRite flowers, the Brookdale ShopRite always had a really good fresh floral market.
Yes.
Versus like Stop and Shop, for some reason they die on me. So I don't know what it is.
I've used Brookdale ShopRite a lot, because they do have, and they make up their arrangements there, and they're coming in fresh. They look pretty good. I just didn't know if you only want one of something, I wasn't sure. Their selection isn't necessarily as diverse. But anyway, that's great to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all really good options, but also, like you all know, like produce.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is what it is. Even for us who buy large quantities, we can only get what we can get sometimes. But you know what? You do the best with what you can find. Use your instinct. Don't squeeze your roses like I have a tendency to do. And there's lots of solutions, and have fun.
Yeah.
Try growing something in your yard too.
Yeah, and Shannon brings up a good point. If they have a floral section, you can ask for one of something, and they may sell it to you. If you just need, one or three of something, and they don't see them out, a lot of times they'll have them behind. If you ask, there's something particular that you want. And somebody else is saying, Mary's saying that Trader Joe's has a good, reasonable selection as well, flowers.
Yeah, and you can't always get exactly the color or something you want, but they'll be accommodating.
So maybe when we're sort of hybridly open, maybe Robbie, you can do a live demo here outside. We could set up a little floral shop, and we can do people can bring their own vessels, and we can have them make your own. Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be fun.
Definitely. Yeah.
Good.
Some goodies to work with.
Yeah, great.
Michelle, can I sneak my question in?
Sure, Sarah, go ahead.
Okay. You showed us a whole lot of clear vases. If you use a colored one, doesn't that keep the light from getting to the stem and decaying them?
Oh, what are you saying? If we put it in an opaque one?
Yeah, that's.
Or if you put it in opaque, or if you put it in a red vase as opposed to
I think it's negligible because we're already looking at like a week to a week and a half. You know, I don't know. I don't think it would prolong it. I think more relevant than the whether it's an opaque or a clear vase for the light to get it is changing the water daily. I know it's a scotch, but if you change the water daily and if you can give it the ends of the stems a fresh snip, that's more relevant, I think.
And keeping the green out so that you don't get that sort of bacteria in there. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, can't we skip the part of changing water? But no, it really does help.
Yeah.
Does it help to put in an aspirin or that stuff that comes with the flowers or?
Yeah, and sometimes we put Sprite. Me personally, these little, it's funny you just said that. I was just going to talk. Remember to save these. I never use 100 proof. I just put a little bit in. Kind of like sweetening your coffee. Just give her a little dip.
Great. Thanks, Robbie.